You're live. Go, Madam.
Thank you. Welcome to the third meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I see everyone is here except Delegate McComas. I'm sure she will be joining us momentarily. I did see her, so I know she does plan on attending. So today we're going to start off, I'm going to circle back to a couple of amendments that we had received and that you all received that we had discussed previously. We're going to take a couple vote on those, and then we are going to jump into LEOBR and go through the process as outlined in the bill. And Matt Jackson is going to help us with that. So first, I believe Delegate Moon, are you ready with your couple of amendments? Which one would you like to start with?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Why don't we start with Amendment 212011/1. And so this is as we are completing the conversation on updating body cams and things like that, that we had a hearing on a bill that Delegate C.T. Wilson brought. And so I'm trying to bring some of those provisions into the speaker's bill, in particular, to have officers state the reason for a stop absent exigent circumstances. I think with a universal body cam requirement, that's going to create a very professionalized set of policing data in Maryland, where we'll be able to sort of have a good quality check on police stops. And I believe that was something Mr. Schellenberger was amenable to at that hearing. The other part of the amendment is to clarify that residents have the right to record the police absent any other law breaking. So I would move that amendment, Madam Chair.
Second.
1 second, Liz, can you please let Delegate Deb Davis in? I think she's waiting. I think she's in the wait room. So Delegate Moon, you moved the amendment, and Delegate Bartlett, you seconded that? Okay.
Can Liz scroll down a little bit? Thanks, Liz.
Ask a question.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So you say that this amendment will clarify the fact that citizens can record the police. Is this just a video recording, or is it video and audio?
Both, because what could be questionable is audio for sure. But I actually think this is legal now. But to the extent people continue to feel this is being challenged, this would be an appropriate restatement / clarification in the heart of the policing bill. So that's part of the motive.
And forgive me, but I remember there being we had a big talk one day last week, I guess, with Scott Schellenberger and other people who said, well, yeah, I can't even look at your phone recording. I'd have to arrest you if we did this. Does this get us around that argument?
We have another bill actually on second, I think it's on second reader on that topic, so that it's being addressed, but not on this bill.
Okay, but if it's addressed on this other bill, then it'll be okay on this bill, is what you're saying?
There's actually 3 separate bills where we're touching this interception of audio issue, and they will all harmonize, but this is just as to the narrow issue about whether it's okay for residents to tape their interactions with law enforcement, just on that narrow instance.
Okay, and you're saying it's going to deal with the audio portion as well as the video portion? Yeah,
this would. In the other bills, we actually do it a little bit differently, but again, it's different scenarios. So, but But just as to a resident being allowed to tape their interactions with law enforcement, this is just confirming that that is okay, as long as you're not breaking any other laws.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'm gonna do a roll call. Delegate Atterbury, yes. Delegate Anderson,
Yes.
Delegate Erican,
No.
Delegate Bartlett,
Yes.
Delegate Deborah Davis,
Yes.
Delegate Mike Griffith,
No.
Delegate Leslie Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate Susan McComas, Delegate David Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Emily Shetty,
Yes.
Delegate Brenda Sham,
No.
and the amendment passes 7-3. Okay, Delegate Moon, did you have another amendment you would like to offer at this time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. It's Amendment 233924/1. And let me just, this one's real simple too. In the bill, when you go back and look at the charging committee section, we had this big debate about who's the best person or body to be doing
Yes.
all of this police discipline.
Yeah.
Delegate McComas, you're
You
not
didn't
on
name
mute.
it, right?
McComas, can you please mute yourself? Thank you.
So you'll remember we have this charging committee that sort of recommends discipline back to the chief to implement, and all this amendment does is it says that discipline is a floor, that it's not really possible. We don't want to have a scenario where the chief says, I'm not going to do anything, never mind, and sort of sweep sustained complaints under the rug. And so all this amendment does is it says that these are minimum disciplines that are being contemplated.
Okay, hold on. I think we're getting the amendment up. Yeah, here we go. Are there any questions for Delegate Moon on the amendment?
And let me just be a little bit more clear about it, Madam Chair. I'm trying to be responsive to this whole question about how much power and discretion over discipline we should be giving to local chiefs and sheriffs in this process. I know that's been of great interest, and all this amendment does is say, however that shakes out, it's going to be a minimum. So we can't just have people making local decisions to ignore sustained problems.
Okay, I'll move the amendment. Second.
Madam Chair.
Hold on, one moment. It was seconded. Okay, any
Second.
discussion? Any discussion? Delegate Griffith, I see your hand.
Sorry, I apologize for getting outside the procedure. Delegate Moon, just trying to understand, determine the minimum disciplinary action that a chief or a law enforcement agency shall impose against a police officer. Is there somewhere where that's defined, or what the minimum? I mean,
Well,
is there a law in place I'm unaware of that already defines this?
What that minimum? Well, no, the minimum discipline would be what the charging committee does, but I think you'll see, elsewhere in the discussion that there are efforts to sort of define. It's discussed as a disciplinary matrix in the bill, and so it would be that when that disciplinary matrix applies to some officer's actions, there's a part in the bill where basically the chief is supposed to issue some discipline according to the findings of the charging committee and the disciplinary matrix. But it doesn't actually say anywhere in the bill that that has to happen. And so that was my concern, is that, well, wait a second, if we're just allowing the chiefs and sheriffs to take a look at that information, what do we mean? I don't think we mean that it's advisory. I think we intend that if in fact misconduct has been sustained and we have an existing disciplinary matrix that says the discipline should be within this range or X, Y, or Z, the chiefs and sheriffs should not be allowed to take a look at that and decide not to do anything at all. And that's really what this is trying to get at.
Well, so Delegate Moon, I have a request. Is it possible that we could hold this amendment to after we figure out what those punishments would look like and then come back to this? Just because I don't want to say we're approving something that we don't know exactly what we're approving. Is that appropriate procedurally?
Well, that's up to the chair.
We're going to press on with this amendment and vote on it, but I will tell you there is an amendment coming, and it was circulated from myself that says the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission has to create a statewide matrix, so everybody's on the same matrix.
So this is, I'm not challenging you, but I'm just trying to understand it, so please bear with me. So this amendment is saying that the chief or sheriff would have to enforce discipline based upon the matrix that is
based upon the bottom of the matrix, at least that they can't just say I'm not going to do this. Yeah, exactly.
And conceptually, I mean that the bottom of the matrix could be a letter in their record or something.
Yeah, and so I guess the matrix itself is, TBD. And so that's why I'm saying my amendment is silent as to what the matrix and the discipline is. But
Right.
Whatever it is, all this amendment says is that the chiefs and sheriffs can't go below it.
We won't know what it is until they design it.
Right.
Any other
Yeah.
questions for Delegate Moon?
No.
I'm scrolling through here. Delegate Ericam, I'm going to see everybody. You just have to scroll through when there's something on the screen that's being shared.
Sorry, this is a brand new Zoom. I just downloaded it and I can't see the freaking hand raise button. So anyway, sorry about that. So we're being, I'm glad that entertains you, Kurt. So we're being asked to vote sort of on the idea, but we don't even know what it will actually be because the matrix is going to be created by the commission.
Well, I will tell you that right now, some jurisdictions use a matrix, like I believe Baltimore City, and some don't. It's just discretionary. So I think part of what Delegate Moon was intending is that, look, just like other things we're doing this bill, like the use of force, we all need to be on the same page. So officers know what the expectation is in terms of discipline. So that's what this says.
I think that's a good idea.
Standardizing.
I think that's a good idea. Hold on one second. But we're already putting the matrix concept in, is that correct?
Yeah, I guess, but again, I would commend to you, if you go back and really go line item on that thing, it doesn't actually say anywhere that the chief has to do anything with what happens with the investigation or the charging committee or anything. And for me, that's a big problem. We have some sheriffs and chiefs who have decided that they interpret the law, not the courts and the normal system. So this at least ensures that for sustained misconduct, there is a statewide minimum coming into formation.
I just don't understand why the matrix isn't going to do that. So what?
Well, they can choose to ignore it. That's the problem. They can choose to ignore what the matrix
I thought it was somewhere else in the bill I thought there was another portion of the bill where they were not able to choose to ignore the matrix, that they were going to have to dispose their penalty within the matrix.
It's only if there's a conviction or PBJ or something like that. This is after something has gone through the administrative process. There's been a finding of misconduct, and here lies this matrix that says this is what the range of discipline should be, and that goes now back to the sheriff or chief to impose discipline. But again, it doesn't say they have to do anything.
Okay, so I have to back up a little bit then, because my view of what the direction we were going with this was going to be that the sort of 90% of interagency related issues we're going to be totally left up to, you know, the chiefs and sheriffs to make the sort of disposition on those. And that we were talking about sort of this 10% that was public complaints. And that's what this is addressing.
Right.
Or is it addressing,
No, no,
this,
no.
is this limited to
You've got
just
that
public?
right. You've got that right. This is
Okay.
not like the rudeness or something, you know, like that. This is I think it's misconduct, sex harassment, racial discrimination, this sort of thing. And like the shootings are in their own category, obviously. So yeah, this is not rudeness or whatever.
Okay, I guess okay. So this is just for if we're on if we're in that 10% line where it's a public complaint filed and it's moving through the system, you know, with the public complaint.
And now a finding has been made, you know, a determination has been made that there's been misconduct. And so the question here is just, should they be allowed to just not do what the matrix says and go under it? And I don't think when people have been talking about giving more power to the chiefs and sheriffs, that is a result that we are contemplating. I don't think anyone intends that. Well, maybe someone does, not me.
Okay. Yeah. So now I understand what the amendment actually does, but I'm still not sure that it's necessary because we have there in 25, if the police officer is charged, recommended discipline in accordance with the law enforcement agency's disciplinary matrix. So it already says they have to do it within the matrix. I'm not sure this is needed.
What Delegate Moon's amendment, I'm sure he has mooned people in the past. What his amendment says is that you can't go below the recommendation. You can't go below the lowest minimum recommendation of discipline. That's all it says. That they can't all of a sudden use their discretion and go below the minimum. That's what it says.
So that's what a matrix is.
No,
that's already what it is.
Okay, that's what it says. Delegate Arakan, your time is up. Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for another bite of the apple. And it is a full moon, so very excited about that too. More puns. So, what is the absolute minimum offense a police officer could do to fall under this matrix punishment? What's the lowest level offense that would push them into this where they're absolutely getting punished?
If you need counsel to jump in, we can ask.
Sure.
I don't think we specified it in that way because some of misconduct and harassment could constitute a whole range of behaviors, but that's in the bill.
But that's what I'm trying to legitimate question, trying to understand what is the absolute lowest level offense, and if counsel is willing,
profiling, sexual harassment, profiling,
all bad stuff,
yeah,
all that stuff needs to be punished. Agreed. I'm just trying to understand what the lowest level is. There something like super innocuous? Well,
look, here's the thing. Again, we don't have this matrix yet, but if it's rudeness, I mean, I assume the matrix might say the discipline is write an apology or something like this. You know what I mean?
But that's
it's not jail. This is not a criminal proceeding.
Right.
This is administrative.
Right.
Mr. Atterbury?
Yes.
Yep. On page 22 of the bill, so this would apply to anything that's forwarded and runs through an administrative charging committee. So on page 22, lines 5 through 16, you can see there the types of things that are going to be forwarded through the administrative charging committee. So these are allegations of misconduct made by a member of the public, and then any allegation, whether it's internal or external, relating to dishonesty, the violation of a criminal statute, sexual harassment, or racial harassment. And that's how it is now.
Okay, so dishonesty, while I consider it still pretty severe, is probably the least severe on here, correct?
Sure, I suppose so, of the things that are listed, but on lines 9 through 10, it is allegations of misconduct made by members of the public.
You know,
So
And so,
if
and
I
what
could
I'm-
just respond to that quick question, though, I mean, part of the problem is that's highly subjective. I mean, dishonesty for someone that has to testify in court is that, I mean, depending on what's going on, that actually might be far more serious than being
Correct.
rude or what
no,
have you.
and that's why I say I still consider dishonesty, you know, for me, a high crime. I mean, for me personally, in my values. What I'm trying to address is just trying to prevent the unintended consequence of, for example, like us as delegates, right? If we get an ethics complaint violation, right? You know, a lot of that's handled, you know, it can be handled in a variety of ways, right? I just don't want so somebody makes an honest, simple mistake. They are found to be wrong for an honest, simple mistake, but it does qualify to fall in the matrix. And then they get administratively punished that could affect promotion, retirement, all kinds of other things because they're required. So to take all discretion away from someone who made an honest mistake, you know, that's my only concern because, you know, we talk a lot in this committee about grace for a lot of folks. I'm not sure we're being
Delegate, I understand the concern you're flagging down here. One of the things I will say is that in some of the very recent discussion about existing matrices used by some of our local departments, they have like factor in subsequent, you know, what's your history of complaints, things like that. And so I think there's a larger discussion to be had here. But again, I'm certainly not expecting that this means suddenly there's harsh and severe discipline for all police complaints that come in, even sustained police complaints, that we have no reason to believe that would be the case. And in fact, these matrices are currently being used and applied to a range of circumstances. Again, all I'm saying is if people are going to start pushing in the direction of empowering the chiefs and sheriffs with the wide variety of viewpoints we have among our existing known chiefs and sheriffs, I just am personally uncomfortable with this if we haven't set a floor on their powers.
And my very last comment, and I'll mute myself, is my only pushback on this at all, and the only thing I'm uncomfortable about is not knowing what the floor of the matrix is. So we're guaranteeing a minimum punishment that we don't know what that minimum punishment is. And I would rather know what the minimum punishment is. I'm not saying, I'm just asking if could we maybe table this amendment until we have a better idea of what at least conceptually, what that minimum punishment would be. That's my only concern about this. Not intent, but that. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Griffith. Delegate Lopez, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I just had a kind of a quick comment to hopefully move the conversation along. I mean, it's really, I'm not sure it's necessary to have a full matrix all put together at this point, because in order for that to work, it needs to be collaborative, and that's not something that this body can undertake. That needs to be the practitioners and the people in the field who have that insight. If you want to see specifics about the thresholds for other matrix, I just posted the Baltimore PD one in the chat, and that's publicly available information. I think essentially you agree to the concept of having a floor to discipline, or you don't. And so I would call the question.
Thank you, Delegate Lopez. We're going to take a roll call. Delegate Bartlett, do you have a quick question or comment?
I was going to move the question without argument.
Okay, thank you. So we will do a roll call on Delegate Moon's amendment. Delegate Atterbury, yes. Delegate Anderson?
Yes.
Delegate Erican?
No.
Delegate Bartlett?
Yes.
Delegate Deborah Davis?
Yes.
Delegate Griffith?
No.
Delegate Lopez?
Yes.
Delegate McComas?
No. No.
Delegate Moon?
Yes.
Delegate Shetty,
Yes.
Delegate Sham,
No.
and the motion passes. 7-4. Okay, Delegate Moon, do you have anything else for us today? Or was that?
I guess I can stand down for the day.
Okay. I am going to offer an amendment. Liz, I think you have this. Number 252016-1.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, perfect. So, folks, and it was just sent around to everyone this afternoon. Essentially, what this amendment does, speaking of the matrix, it says that the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission shall develop a model uniform disciplinary matrix for use by each law enforcement agency, and that each law enforcement agency shall adopt it, and officer who is administratively charged will be disciplined according to the matrix. And that's just continuing along our theme of standardization across the state. And with that, I move the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll give you guys a second to take a look at it. Delegate Shetty?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a quick question, please, on this amendment, which I am grateful for your leadership on. Is there an opportunity for the public to participate or comment during the establishment of this matrix? I can't see.
Well, the Maryland Police Training Standards Commission is going to develop the model, and there are citizens on we're recommending actually that it be a majority citizen makeup on the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission, but they'd be the ones who would design the matrix.
Okay, and then, but when they design it, do they like release it for public comment or feedback or anything like that? Or is it more an internal process as you envision?
I believe it is more of an internal process. If I am incorrect in that, or Claire or Alex, please step in.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Sorry, thank you, Matt. My question is whether, as envisioned, the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission would be required to have any type of additional public comment period as they develop this matrix?
Sure. So I think the best answer I can give you to that, I mean, it's not explicit in the amendment. However, the work group recommendations do add a significant number of civilians onto the Police Training and Standards Commission. So I think, there you would have some citizen input.
Thank you so much.
And also, if I can just add, the MPTSC exists under state law as a public body. And there are a narrow number of exceptions to when they can close that meeting. So conceivably, I think they would have to keep the meeting open, at least for public viewing when considering this.
That's super helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Delegate McComas? You're muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a concern, and if we're going to allow public input, I think we all should allow the police and the FOPs also to comment on this, because I think they're the ones that are going to have to be adhering to this and whether it works. And once again, I will say Maryland is America in miniature, and we have all kinds of different sizes of police police units. We have the very small to the very large. And I think that each type and number of police officers in each police department have different issues and different concerns. And the dynamics of who they patrol and provide law enforcement and safety for, those are very different. I mean, a small town in Western Maryland is certainly different than Baltimore City or even Bethesda or Silver Springs. So I'm just saying, I think we need to have input from the chiefs and the sheriffs and from the FOP.
So Delegate, if I can,
Yep.
Vice Chair, Delegate McComas, I'll just remind you that the makeup of the MPTSC specifically includes chiefs and sheriffs. Right now, Sheriff Troy Berry from Charles County is the current chair. Depending on what the determination of the committee is on composition of the MPTSC, I would think that both of those voices would be represented on the commission.
Well, I guess Alex or Ms. Hughes, or I don't know what your official.
Alex is fine.
Chief, the chief hand. My question to you is, like most things, not everybody agrees and sees it the same way. So, and I mean, we've seen that before where the Maryland chiefs will come in with, or the Maryland state's attorneys will come in with one thing, and then Schellenberg will say, well, I don't agree with that, or one of the other state's attorneys, and the same way with the chiefs and the sheriffs. So I just think that they need to have some if we're going to allow everybody from the public to come in, then let's allow the chiefs and the sheriffs and the FOP to come in. Because actually, I guess they could come in anyway as the public. I mean,
so I'm just talking about the actual makeup of the commission. And so on the actual.
Right, I understand that, but I'm saying they ought to have some public hearings like we've had for some other bills, like the child custody bill.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You guys could absolutely recommend that. I was just making the point that the chiefs and the FOP and members of the public are represented on the MPTSC, which is currently the state body that makes recommendations for best practices for police officers in the state right now. But I mean, of course, if you guys want to require public hearings, I'm sure that the vice chair would take an amendment to her amendment if somebody is recommending that.
Well, I'll have to go to the amendment office, but that would be my recommendation in concept. Thank you, Alex.
Delegate Erican.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to make sure that I have everything that I understand here. So this is what I anticipated us having, right? So it would have been maybe helpful if this one had gone before Moons, because it really is they're important together. So I thought the matrix was going to be adopted by the agencies. I did not understand that that was going to be a new task of the commission. And like Delegate McComas, I'm very uncomfortable with what we've done to the commission, is given it to a bunch of civilians with literally no training or police background almost exclusively. And then we're going to have them create a disciplinary matrix for people where they've never even been in the job. That's the intention of this?
As of right now, Delegate Erican, we haven't changed the makeup of the commission. So the commission.
In the bill, or just our subcommittee hasn't? In the bill, it's totally different.
Right, but subcommittee, it's my understanding you are presenting amendments to try to amend that out of the bill.
We certainly will try. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard for me to vote on this amendment when we don't even know, like, we're voting on things where we don't even know who the decision makers will be of what the matrix is going to be. So then I'm going to feel like I have to vote against literally every amendment that touches this issue, because we still haven't agreed on what the people that are going to be actually doing this work are going to look like, and the knowledge base they're going to have. So this might be an amendment I like if I feel like that there's actually police officers that are going to be involved in it. If I feel like it's like going to be me and my brother on this thing, we don't know what a disciplinary matrix should look like. And so I'm uncomfortable right now because I feel like we've sort of gone out of order. If we could address maybe the makeup, and maybe I would have also liked Delegate Moon's amendment, because it's just, we're really divorcing the two things, and really they should be married, I think. Or at least one should, the commission makeup should have gone before, giving out them charging orders to them and what they're supposed to do when we don't even know who they are.
Okay,
I'd
thank
just
you.
add something real quick.
Who is that? Delegate Anderson? Yep.
Yeah. As Alex pointed out, there are almost 2/3 of this commission will be police officers. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them will be police chiefs or sheriffs or the commissioner of police of Baltimore City. That's still in the bill. That's not being changed. First two up there, if you guys look at it, the president of the Maryland Chiefs Association, the president of the Maryland Sheriff's Association. You have the Prince George's County Police Chiefs Association, as well as the Commissioner of Baltimore City. So this will not be simply a committee of non-police officers. The majority will still be police officers, and there will be, I'm sorry, at least 4 sheriffs or chiefs represented on the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission.
So just for clarification, I believe Delegate Anderson is looking on page 7 and page 8 of the bill.
Delegate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to kind of follow up on Delegate Erickson's point, kind of the point I made on the last bill, just to reemphasize. And I think we all want this to be as bipartisan as possible. And if there's any chance to, again, maybe, pause this until we circle back around, just because I want to fully understand what, I'm voting on the chain of events chronologically. It would just be helpful because I want to support as much of this as possible. But if I don't know what the end game is, it's hard for me to go now. And I got to be a no now when, if we push this to after some other matters, I very well may be a yes. That's my only respectful request.
Okay, we are going to move.
I share, I just want everybody on the subcommittee and the viewing public, I just want to underscore Delegate Anderson's point. The commission under the bill, PTSD, is made up of the president of the Chiefs Association, the president of the Sheriff's Association, the Attorney General, the Secretary of State Police, the agent in charge of the Baltimore office of the FBI, 1 member representing the Maryland State Lodge of the FOP, 1 member representing the State's Attorneys Association, the Police Commissioner of Baltimore City. The following people appointed by the governor with advice and consent of the Senate: 1 individual with expertise in community policing, 1 individual with expertise in policing standards, 1 individual and expertise in mental health without relationships to law enforcement, and 9 citizens of the state without relationships to law enforcement. That's what's contained in the bill as before you right now. So the only people that are struck from the commission is the Maryland Municipal League Police Executive Association, the president of the Law Enforcement Officers, Inc., the president of the Police Chiefs Association of Prince George's County, a representative from the Warwick Advisory Committee on Criminal Justice, the legislators. And the reason the legislative appointees are struck is because it is now moving into more of an enforcement arm, and there's a constitutional problem with that, those people remaining on, with you guys remaining on. And then 3 officers representing different geographic areas. Those are the only people that have been struck and replaced with 9 citizens. Appointed, again, I just want to underscore, appointed by the governor with advice and consent of the Senate.
Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Okay, with that, we are going to do a roll call on the amendment. Delegate Atterbury, yes. Delegate Anderson,
Yes.
Delegate Erickson,
Yes.
Delegate Bartlett,
Yes.
Delegate Deborah Davis,
Yes.
Delegate Mike Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate McComas,
Yes. Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Shetty,
Yes.
Delegate Sham.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I believe, and I'm not sure that it is ready, but Delegate Lopez, you had an amendment that you want to discuss if it's not ready.
Sure, yeah. At this point, it's in the conceptual stage just because of there's so many amendments that are being introduced to this. It's kind of a backlog. So I appreciate our committee counsel, Claire, and I owe you a coffee or something at the end of this for all the work you're putting into it. So essentially my amendment puts some standardization around what happens for suspensions during the beginning of an investigation. The language will say may suspend for assault or discrimination and shall suspend for offenses or allegations of offenses for higher degrees, so criminal allegations and domestic violence. And both of those suspending authorities are at the discretion of the chief, or I should say the authority of the chief.
So here is some language, but it's not the official amendment.
No, those are different.
Oh, that's different. Liz.
Yeah, different, different amendment.
Can she repeat that one more time for us and maybe reference the page it might be on?
Sure. Yeah. I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll dig through to figure out which page exactly it is. So basically, what happens when an investigation starts, the chief is, under this amendment, will be required to suspend an officer for a criminal allegation or domestic violence. The chief may suspend someone if there's allegations of assault or discrimination.
I'm trying to raise my hand.
Delegate Arakan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so is this, did you say with or without pay?
I think the way that it's drafted, it doesn't specify.
Okay, so somebody is accused, for example, who's in, I mean, you may know this, but in custody cases or divorce cases, a lot of times what happens is people will both get restraining orders against the other party. It's almost daily now that people will do that. Both parties tend to do that. Would that trigger this? If, for example, an officer was getting divorced and his wife said, oh, he pushed me, I'm getting a restraining order against him. Would it only be if there was criminal charges filed, or would it be if there was any sort of accusation of that type of behavior?
I think for the shall, it's an allegation of domestic violence.
So it would include two people that were getting divorced and they both had filed restraining orders against each other, then he would have to be suspended from his job.
If you're an officer who's alleged to have assaulted your wife, then yes, you would be suspended.
Even if the husband alleged the identical thing. I mean, this is very common in divorce right now, extremely common.
So I think, not to cut this off.
Anecdotes. I'm sorry.
Cut this off, but since it's very specific, I think everyone should look at the language. So we'll wait till we have it. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Delegate Lopez. Delegate Shetty, are you ready?
Could I make a suggestion real quick? And Delegate Lopez's language should probably include with or without pay. That gives the chiefs the option if you're going to draft the language up.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson.
I'm sorry to interrupt like that.
No, thank you. That's fine. Good suggestion. Right. Delegate Shetty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we circulated an amendment that everyone voted on conceptually, and now we have the language back. So this is the body camera amendment that that passed the committee or the subcommittee unanimously. So Liz, may I give you the number, please?
Yes, go ahead.
413427-1. But just as we're waiting to pull this up, this is the amendment that would, subject to the existing cameras having the technological capability that they would record at least 60 seconds of video footage prior to the officer activating their body camera. So this is the language. Would you scroll down just so it's fully visible? That's perfect. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and move your amendment. Shetty, you want to second it?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Delegate Erican? Your hand's up.
Is it? I don't know where or how to do that. I'm sorry, this is a brand new Zoom. I used to be really adept at this, and now I feel like I'm a kindergartner again. I think this is the amendment that we discussed previously. Is that correct?
It
Yes.
is. Yeah. And we all voted in support of it conceptually, but I wanted to make sure you have the actual language and
Yes, I so appreciate that. You know how I'm in the nitty gritty details kind of girl. So I do think that the language looks like it will accurately do what I think we anticipated that it would do. Probably one can possesses the technology. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think this is good. I think I like the way it's written. I think it does what we anticipated it would. So thank you.
Delegate Anderson?
Yeah, Mike's question, and I'm supporting the amendment. My question is, are we satisfied that there is no technological capability to record the 60 seconds after the officer turns off the camera?
ooh, that's a fun idea too.
Well, we asked the question during the hearing, and one of the chiefs said that they would get back to us, but
Yeah. I don't recall whether, so I don't know. I know Delegate Moon's been working on this issue for a while longer than me, so I know he's done a lot more research. Delegate Moon, do you know if there's already the technological capability of that buffer time after deactivating the camera?
I asked Axon about this, and they said it is not, unfortunately, a feature built right now, but they could conceivably add it if there was demand.
Thank you.
Delegate McComas?
Madam Chair, thank you, Madam Chair. I have an amendment that would make sense to follow after this, which basically, I don't have a physical amendment, but I can give you what the bulk of it is. It's a funding that the state shall provide funding for the purchase of the equipment, storage, and hiring of staff to review, process, and audit the body cam footage. So basically, it's a funding mechanism that the state will have to provide this, because we are going to be increasing the amount of video from the front end as well as the back end if Delegate Shetty amends her bill to cover the back end recording. So I just wanted to kind of let you know that, because I also had an amendment to the Training Commission, and unfortunately, I think we've gone past that now. So anyway.
Okay, so we can circle back to the Training Commission. Let's stick to Delegate Shetty's amendment, and I don't see any other hands up except Delegate Eric Hands is just perennially up. So I'll do a roll call on this. Delegate Atterbury, yes. Delegate Anderson,
Yes.
Delegate Erican,
Yes. Sorry about my hand.
Delegate Bartlett,
Yes.
Delegate Deborah Davis,
Yes.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Lopez,
Yes.
Delegate McComas,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
Yes.
Delegate Shetty,
Yes.
Delegate Sham,
Yes.
and that passes. Okay, I think Delegate Erican has, and you have some amendments you would like to offer on topics we've already discussed.
Yeah, I have a couple that touch on the education piece. I can.
Madam-
Did Sue want to do her one that relates to that topic?
Yeah.
Okay. You said
That's
you
fine.
didn't have the language, so
Oh, do you want us to vote on it conceptually,
You
Sue?
muted yourself.
Oops. I do not have the physical amendment, but I have the amendment that would be sent to the amendment office. So if you'll bear with me, I will explain. Okay, on page 15, following line 4. Okay, so everybody can locate that. Okay, insert C. The state shall provide funding for the purchase of equipment, storage, and hiring of the staff, to review, process, and audit body camera footage. That's the amendment. And it would go under line 4. Following line 4, insert C. So in other words, the state is going to have to fund this.
Okay, and do you want us to vote on that conceptually before you get the language?
That's fine, yes.
Move favorable.
Are there any questions or comments for the
Is there-
comment? I'm sorry. Yeah, there was. Okay, we are voting on this conceptually. Hold on. I'm writing as fast as I can over here. Un momento. Okay, Delegate Atterbury, no. Delegate Anderson,
No.
Delegate Arakan,
Yes.
Delegate Bartlett,
No.
Delegate Deborah Davis,
No.
Delegate Griffith,
Yes.
Delegate Lopez,
No.
Delegate McComas,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
No.
Delegate Shetty,
No.
Delegate Sham.
Yes.
That fails. 4 in favor, 7 opposed. So that fails conceptually. So you can, if you'd like, put a pause on the amendment office. Delegate McComas. Delegate Sham, your hand's raised?
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I have another amendment under LEOBR. Is this the right
Okay.
time to present?
We are going to, I would like Matt to, he has a very nice chart to explain what the bill does as it relates to LEOBR. So after that, yes.
Sure thing, thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Arakan, did you have something else?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, so I
Would you
have
like
a
to
couple
now?
amendments that, I have a couple that touch on, am I coming through clearly? I feel like it's like choppy. Can you hear me? Okay. I have an amendment. I'll go ahead and read it to Liz. 913925/1.
I'll get it right up.
Okay, awesome. So basically, what my amendment will do, it's a little bit long, but not too bad, is it alters a little bit the education portion of it, and I have multiple of them, so I'm just gonna make sure this is the one that I think it is. Yeah, this is gonna allow an officer who would have qualified under the current language, so somebody who's already been hired, will also qualify to get the same educational opportunities as new hires. So you guys are all frozen, so I don't know if you can hear me, but I hope you can.
Hey,
Okay.
everyone, just hit pause on this for a minute. Delegate Atterbury's Zoom crashed and we're trying to get her back. I'm so
Okay, that
sorry.
explains it.
Give
No,
us a
that's
minute.
fine. Okay.
Or we're just all sitting really still listening to you.
We're so interested. All right.
Can I just ask you a quick clarification question, Delegate Arakan?
Can we just wait till the vice chair's here, because she might have the same question? I don't want to continue without her, just in case she'd probably prefer to hear all the back and forth.
Who said that?
But then I'll answer it for you.
Oh,
It's
Arakan,
fine.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
Arkin, this is
Okay, she's
Claire.
coming back in.
I just
Hey,
wanted
Claire.
to let you know that this amendment is the one that establishes the Maryland Loan Assistance Repayment Program.
Okay, which is the one that does the other thing? Well, I'm gonna do them all, but which is the other one?
Okay, that is 733029. That applies the
Okay.
tuition waiver piece to all degrees instead of just four-year degrees and to current police officers.
Okay, and which one is this one that I just read? 743022? Oh no, that's a different one.
919925 is the loan assistance repayment.
Oh, this is for the ones who already got their degree, but are going to be repaid for the degree that they got.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Claire. I really appreciate that. That's very, very helpful.
You're welcome.
So sorry, everyone. Said I had no internet and I lost everybody. Everyone was frozen, and I realized it was. So, where are you, Delegate Arakan?
We waited for you. We waited for you. So I'm gonna just backtrack because Claire just corrected me. I was on the wrong. I have two amendments that address this part of the bill, and so this one is actually the loan repayment. So if a police officer, for example, just finished their degree last year, and then all of a sudden all these people that are coming in are getting it for free, this would allow him to apply for, or her to apply for, or they to apply for a repayment.
What, just so I know, I can't see it. What amendment number is this?
This is 913925/1. So it's for somebody who's already been hired so that they get the same educational opportunity. I mean, with the idea that the goal is that we will have a highly educated police force, kind of like the goal of the Kerwin Commission to have a highly educated teachers. The theory being that with education comes great outcomes. So if that's the goal, I was hoping that we would have the opportunity to offer either loan repayment to the people that have already paid for their degrees out of pocket.
Okay.
Vice Chair, could I make a suggestion? Because I know that Delegate Shetty had a number of ideas around the higher ed piece too. Could I just suggest that potentially we table this issue and I can connect Delegate Arakan and Delegate Shetty with Delegate Ben Barnes, who chairs the higher ed subcommittee, and maybe they can kind of work something out on all of this over the weekend.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Delegate Sham, your hands up. You have.
Still just regarding my amendment.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, lower my hand.
Okay, Delegate Arakan, do you have anything else for now on an issue we've discussed previously?
Yeah, I do have, and thank goodness Claire's here. I do have an amendment that addresses the marijuana portion of the bill. I can't remember if we had already voted on any conceptual things on that or not. No. It would just clarify sort of what we were talking about. Claire, do you have there what my number is for that amendment? I have like 60,000 amendments that I'm clicking on, trying to make sure I find the right one. And it's proving to be incredibly difficult.
Because you had 100.
I do. At least 100, but I'm not going to offer all of them. I just, you draw them up just in case you might need them. But then, like Delegate Shetty she already suggested one that I had, so we already approved it. So
I have one from you, 523229/1 disqualifies a person from certification or employment as a police officer if the person used marijuana within the previous year, or the person was arrested, charged, or found guilty of a marijuana-related crime within the previous 2 years.
Yeah, that was the amendment that I wanted to present for that portion, because I think that's what we had talked about on the very first day. That's what the Maryland Police Training Commission was considering doing already in there. They have a work group for this exact topic. So that was my, there it is. That was my suggested amendment. So.
Okay, can you explain it one more time, please?
So the restriction would just be to avoid the situation where someone could literally be, smoking marijuana and walking in to apply for a job. They can't have used within the last year, and they can't have been arrested for a marijuana related crime within the last 2 years. And truthfully, there is an issue. If you've been arrested for any kind of crime that has a penalty that it can carry a penalty of a certain length, you are a prohibited person and you cannot carry a firearm in the state of Maryland anyways. So this would just be clarifying language that makes it clear to the Training Commission that that is the case.
Okay, are you moving the amendment?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Delegate Deborah Davis, we'll have discussion. Delegate Deborah Davis.
Thank you. I like the amendment, but my only consideration is we do all of this to keep out of the force, but we do not test them once they get in. If the delegate would accept a friendly amendment where we would add that they would be testing maybe every 2 years of officers on the force so that they could be excluded also, or they could be held accountable also, I could agree to it. Thank you.
I mean that I'm shocked to hear that. I assumed that I thought that Matt, could you clarify if that, do you know if that is accurate? I thought police chiefs could order drug tests whenever they wanted, and I assumed that there was an annual one. I mean, that was how it was when my husband worked for the government. Do we have any info on that?
I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we table this and we find out, because I'm certainly not opposed to testing people that are carrying firearms to make sure they're not using drugs. That's right up my alley. So we can table my amendment and then we can look into that and we can circle back around once we have all the info, and I can have it redrafted with that additional language in there, certainly.
Okay, Delegate McComas, did you have a comment? Delegate McComas?
She's muted.
Unmute. Okay, I have an amendment, and I think depending on which way we're going, it's more of a general amendment, but I wanted to delete on page 10, I wanted to strike out line 29 and 30, and this is conceptual. Just prior marijuana use is not a disqualifier for certification as a police officer. I just wanted to kind of take that out, and it may be not appropriate because you're looking at this other thing, but I just kind of wanted to get that off it, that prior use is not, prior marijuana use is not a disqualifier for certification as a police officer. I want that stricken. It's on page 10. It's the bottom of page 10.
Okay, so we'll.
Line 30.
Thank you. We're on this amendment. Delegate Bartlett, and then I thought I saw Delegate Anderson, but okay. Delegate Bartlett and then Delegate Anderson.
Well, the amendment takes away the concept that was in that actually Delegate McComas just talked about. It takes away the whole concept that prior use is not a disqualifier. So I have a problem with that. I also have a problem because the individual used marijuana within the previous year, and I don't even know what that means. I mean, there could be, there's no way to know that without testing. So that's like it's a non thing. And then the other part was on the individual being arrested. Unfortunately, we're finding out that arrests are sometimes inaccurate. And so that part gives me some pause as well. So those are my comments on the amendment.
Thank you, Delegate Bartlett. Delegate Anderson?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I couldn't disagree more strongly with the amendment or what Delegate has suggested. This sentence, prior marijuana use, was put in there for the basic reason that many African American who apply are automatically disqualified once they answer the question that they've used marijuana. And chiefs and sheriffs and administrators who do hiring have told us over the years, not just this year, but in the last 4 or 5, 6 years, that one of the hardest things they have to do is to disqualify an African American because he or she had. So we thought, and I believe that Delegate Moon agreed, in fact, it might have been even his suggestion, that we don't, that at least let the person get through the door. And all this section says is that it's not an automatic disqualifier. And when the chiefs and sheriffs testified this time around, they basically said that they would still consider any evidence of the person's use of any drug, whether it's marijuana, heroin, cocaine, whatever. They still could consider it, but it would not be the automatic disqualifier that it currently is. It's an absolute bar from allowing, for a lot of young African-American males or females who want to become police officers. So I would strongly protect that sentence in the bill. It's part of what is going to aid recruitment, especially in the jurisdictions that have a large African-American population, like Baltimore City and Prince George's County.
Okay, Delegate McComas, thank you. Delegate Anderson.
Yes, thank you, Delegate Anderson, for that. But there is nothing in the bill right now that says it's an automatic disqualifier. It says prior marijuana use is not a disqualifier for certification of a police officer.
Right.
So that it doesn't say it's an automatic disqualifier. But I didn't suggest this. This was suggested by the sheriffs and the chiefs. Just saying, I'm not, McComas didn't make it up.
Hey, Matt, did you have any clarification? I think you did for us.
Sure. So regarding drug testing generally, there is it varies from department to department, and there's no set schedule, but law enforcement officers are generally subject to random testing and also can be ordered to submit to a drug test for cause. So that's the general overarching requirement.
Thank you, Matt. Delegate Erican, do you want to table your amendment or do you want to press it at this time?
I think let me work on the language of it and I'll bring it back up at a later time.
Okay, thank you. So we will table that for now. I'm letting everyone know it's 2:40. Delegate Erican, if you have anything else, we'll go on with amendments for just maybe 10 more minutes here, and then we're going to switch. I really want Matt to be able to move us into LEOBR. And that's not to say we are not going to circle back and get to whatever it is you want to offer, because we will. So is there anything else you want to do right now, Delegate Erican?
Oh, me, no. I think those were the only ones that I wanted to do that were on the topics that we've already touched on.
Okay.
Yeah, that was it for me.
Okay. Delegate Anderson, I see your hand is raised. Oh, okay. All right, Matt, if you could move us into the chart, I would appreciate it.
Sure. I think Liz has the chart, but she can also allow me to share my screen. It's up to her.
Is that the chart with all of Claire's amendments?
No, it should be a flow chart.
Why don't you?
Okay, I'll let you be a co-host, Matt.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay. I think I got it. Can everybody see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is kind of the flow chart as to how kind of the bill is sketched out with some proposed possible insertions for suspensions by the chief here. Just to give you a quick outline, the reddish color is on the criminal side of things. The blue boxes are where the process is kind of inside the law enforcement agency. The yellow is where it's outside, as well as obviously the red because it's criminal charges. And the gray things are kind of decision points. So as soon as the alleged misconduct occurs, this moves it into the investigation stage. And as I said, this is kind of under the process for the bill now. So if it is an issue that involves death or serious bodily injury, that is going to move to the independent state agency under the bill to investigate. Once that investigation is complete, it's going to be forwarded over to the appropriate entity to determine whether or not to criminally charge. If there are charges, obviously you're going to be moving on to a criminal trial possibly. And if there are criminal charges of that magnitude, then the chief should be required to suspend. That was kind of looking at a Delegate Lopez's amendment earlier on. If there are no charges that are going to be levied, it kind of boots it back over into the regular scheme of things. So going back over here, back to the investigation, if the issue does not involve death or serious bodily injury, but does involve some of that egregious behavior that you'll see in the bill, then the local agency is vested with the ability to investigate. That investigation will occur, and that report will be forwarded on to the Administrative Charging Committee. The Administrative Charging Committee then looks at those investigative findings and then decides what the discipline should be in accordance with a disciplinary matrix. At that point in time, the officer will have two options, obviously. At that point in time, if charges are levied, then we move on to the discipline phase, at which point the officer will have those two options. The officer will have to, and with Delegate Moon's amendment, offer discipline in accordance with the matrix at a certain level. And if discipline is accepted, then the matter is over. If the officer rejects discipline, however, then it will move over to the trial board process. The trial board will make their decision, and the officer will have a right to appeal. If the officer does appeal, it will go to circuit court. And after that, the matter will be final, depending on what the circuit court decision is. If the officer decides not to appeal, then obviously the matter is also final. And up here in the top hand right corner, as Delegate Lopez raised a little bit earlier in concept, that amendment, there is an idea that the chief will have the ability to suspend with or without pay, depending on the types of misconduct or charges that are pending. So that's kind of just the flow chart and the outline of how kind of the process will work. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Delegate Arakan and then Delegate McComas.
Sorry, that's my funky hand problem. McComas can go before me.
Okay, Delegate McComas. And you, McComas.
Of course you would.
You're
All right.
muted.
Yeah. No. I unhit the mute. I'm on camera now. Okay. All right. Whatever. Okay. Can you hear me?
No. Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me. All right. My question is, and this is to Matt. Okay. In Harford County, we have an elected sheriff, and they have an elected sheriff in Frederick County, and I don't know all the other counties where they're elected, but he has been elected by all of the voters in Harford County. All right. So my question to you is this whole scheme going to take away his authority to discipline officers or to keep them? Because my sheriff believes that he has constitutional duties and constitutional rights as being thoroughly elected. And I think he's going to not be happy if the state tries to usurp any of his authority that he has through the Constitution. So then, because I know there was a case a number of years ago, and it was a complicated case, but it talked about how the sheriff and his deputies are kind of a combination between a state and a county office, and that there's an independence there. And I guess what I'm concerned about is whether this scheme, and I don't know, because this is the first time I've kind of like seen it, the flow chart form, which I thank you profusely for, whether it's constitutional. We sort of act in this vacuum. We do things, and they don't always necessarily work out that we have the authority to do that, because there's other branches of government, or there are other levels of government, which this is a different level of government that has its own authority and given to it by the elected voters of Harford County. So I'm a little concerned about that. And I just wonder if we've had enough input from law enforcement to redo the LEOBR, because it's been around for 47 years. And I think that it was mislabeled to say it's a law officer's Bill of Rights instead of law officers' administrative duties and rights, or duties and obligations, or something. It's personnel. It is not rights. So personnel policies and procedures. So thank you for my rant.
Okay.
Delegate McComas, just to be clear, the authority firmly rests with the General Assembly. This is not a constitutional issue. As you know, right, I know you guys have had local Harford County Sheriff bills around participation in the pension plan, salaries. There are a number of bills that the Judiciary and Appropriations Committee set the salaries for local sheriffs, as is evidenced by the fact that the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights currently sits in state statute. This authority firmly rests with the General Assembly.
Delegate Anderson.
Yeah, and let me just add to what Alex said with regard to constitutionality. It seems as if Delegate McComas's argument was based upon the fact that if we were to pass this bill with this matrix, that it would take away the sheriff's constitutional power to fire somebody. And I don't think any sheriff or any county executive or any mayor or police commissioner has that right, just to outright fire a non-at-will employee. Every employee, every state employee has the right to appeal a decision made with regard to his employment. And that's all this does. I think you would agree that your county executive can't just fire, some clerk because the clerk appeals being fired takes away the constitutional right of the county executive to fire people. So I'm just saying that all this does is gives the police officer redress, however you pronounce that word, from a disciplinary act that he thinks is wrong. Now, if he thinks it's right, he can accept it. But if he thinks it's wrong, he or she should have the right to appeal to the next level. You just can't fire somebody if there aren't sustainable facts that the person should be fired.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson. Delegate Sham.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I may have missed this. I apologize, Matt, if you've already stated it. I stepped away for a second. I love visuals. It makes rocket science so simple. A question just to make sure that, and I'll be presenting an amendment later about the whistleblower if a law enforcement officer wants to complain about something. But does this, just want to make sure that it does protect these gentlemen, men and women?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase your question?
Yes, just want to make sure that the chart you have here and the different steps and processes and where do you go when one thing happened versus another, just want to make sure that through these processes and various arrows that are pointing, does it protect the rank and file, like the whistleblower officer who wants to make a complaint about something?
Sure. So you said that you're going to have an amendment a little bit later.
I hope so. If I have the opportunity to present it.
Sure. So, I mean, the repeal of Leover directly, some of those things that were in there regarding whistleblowers and whatnot were gone completely. But this chart what is reflected in this chart would set forth a process whereby, the law enforcement officer would have a certain process that would have to be followed before someone is ultimately fired.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Delegate Erican.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Okay, I just want to, I love this so much. This is so amazing because it's so helpful to see everything like this and color coded, and great work, team speaker's office on this one. This is amazing. So I just want to double check if there's an issue that arises that doesn't rise to the level of death and serious bodily. Oh no, where did it go?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. You can't read other things. You can have to just focus. So we're on the little blue box over here. So if it's an issue at the local level and it does not include, so this is for things that do not include serious bodily injury, but these are just for public complaints. That's right. I just want to confirm.
Right. So as drafted, this would reference back to page 22, lines 5 through, I think, 13, where we're talking about these complaints that are filed coming from members of the public and certain other complaints that you would want to keep track of that may be internal. But the internal stuff to the police department, insubordination, showing up late, all of that stuff will still be handled internally. So
okay, and it would not trigger a trial board. There would be no option for an officer who was accused of not tying his shoes 4 days in a row to go to a trial board. That's all out of that. None of that stuff touches that.
This does not address that.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Delegate Anderson.
I think you're muted, Delegate Anderson.
What this matrix does is basically replace LAOBR. LAOBR was basically a way to make sure that police officers had the same rights that every other citizen who works for government has. We just named it the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, but these Bill of Rights exist for virtually every state employee, and it's based upon the 14th Amendment. You can't be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And in this case, the deprivation would be your job, and you can't be deprived of your job unless there's due process. And the steps are exactly that, due process of law. If you fail to get the result that you want at one step, then you go to the next step. You can take an appeal. As long as the state of Maryland can show that the person disciplined has received every step of due process, then the state of Maryland is in the good. And that's all this does. We've basically said that officers, just like any other state employee, has the right to due process of law. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson. I see Delegate Griffith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Anderson, can you please do me the courtesy of walking me through the differences between this and LEOBR so I can understand what is still there, what's been removed, things of that nature, please?
Well,
so Delegate Anderson, if you may take a shot at this, I think.
Well, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that there really isn't much difference, except for that we're not calling it the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. And the problem with calling it that is what was so toxic over the last 3 or 4 years. Everybody says, get rid of the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights without them really knowing what it was. That's why I almost always try to explain to any group what the LEOBR was and what it wasn't. So we're basically, to be perfectly frank with you, we're replacing this, I think, with a better system, but virtually the law enforcement officers will have the same rights as any citizen of the state of Maryland. And
I think if I can, Delegate Anderson, there are some substantive differences that if.
I was getting to that, but go ahead.
wanted us to walk through, that would be helpful.
Just if I can put a little bit of a finer point, I think on the issue at hand. You know, the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights is an entire section of the code that this bill repeals entirely. So it's just ripping that entire section of the code, no longer be in law. I think what Delegate Anderson's point is that there will remain a process. I think that the work group worked, for 5 months with over 100 witnesses to ensure that there was greater transparency and sunlight and civilian participation in the process. And so, Delegate Griffith, I think to your point, this chart illustrates that a process will continue to exist in state law, but the process is more guided by civilian participation and public input in the overall disciplinary process of a police officer.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Did you, I'm not sure if it was you or somebody else, Delegate Griffith, who asked the question, could the differences be pointed out? Did you want to walk through that now? Or are you satisfied?
I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Delegate Erican?
Sorry, my hand is perpetually up still. I thought I put it down. I found it. I have to click something and click something else and then click something else, but sorry, I'll work on it.
Okay, so you don't have anything to, okay. Any other comments in this area? I know some members have some amendments to this section, but they're not ready. Does anyone have anything that they're offering? I know Delegate Sham. Did you want to offer your amendment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Thank you, Madam. Let's see here. Sorry, I was multitasking over here. Let me get to my correct papers. So regarding LEOBR, I have amendment number 173825/1.
I can get that up.
Okay,
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
So you can start discussing it while she's getting it up.
Yes, so this amendment will it addresses whistleblower protections for those law enforcement officers who desire to report a behavior that's not becoming of a law enforcement officer, and they will prohibit the supervisor or the head of a certain law enforcement agency from retaliating against that law enforcement officer. A pretty long amendment, but hopefully you've had the opportunity to read it. But the main point of it, the gist of it, is to protect the law enforcement officer from any retaliatory actions against them if they are reporting bad behavior. So it can be terminated or dismissed, demoted or suspended, things of that nature.
So Delegate Cham, I will say, I did see this, and you had a previous one that was significantly shorter that I saw as well that dealt with whistleblower. And I think in concept, I think everyone agrees with the concept. So if we could table this and work on some language that hopefully we can all agree on over the weekend and come back with we've all taken a look at, that would be my suggestion.
Are you recommending that it's too long and I should shorten it? Is that what you're recommending?
Well, I'm recommending, I have not, this is very long and I have not, I got it today. I personally have not had an opportunity to take a look at, to read it and digest. Okay. I had viewed one that you sent the other day previously that dealt with whistleblower that I actually agreed with the majority of what you had in that one. So I'm suggesting that we just table it for right now. If people want to discuss whistleblower conceptually, that's fine. And over the weekend, put a more fine-tune point on some language, and then you can offer it hopefully after we've come to some agreement over the weekend.
Okay, all right.
Delegate Eric Hanninger, you took it down, your hand down. Okay, scrolling through to see. Okay, so we will circle back with Delegate Sham on that. Delegate Eric Hand, do you
Thank you.
have amendments that you want to propose at this time?
How much time do we have left?
Until we go to floor, so have at it.
Oh, we're gonna work all the way until floor?
I mean,
at
I had
4?
set till 3:30, but we can, if you want to push through, we have today's meeting and we have Monday's meeting.
Okay.
9 o'clock. We're meeting Monday for 2 hours at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so
I'll let everyone know that the is to be completed at 11 o'clock on Monday.
okay, so I mean, I've got a bunch of stuff that has to do with like chunks of issues. I don't know if like I've got stuff on use of force issues. I've got some stuff on trial boards.
Why don't you,
uniform
what are you
complaints.
proposing on trial boards?
Okay, so that's, oh yeah, that's inside this umbrella. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's pull up, the one, I might have the wrong amendment number here, so I don't want to give you the wrong number. So Claire, it's the one where on page 15, line 22, we strike may employ and put in employees, and in line 23 strikes and civilians. I'm not sure what the actual number is off the top of my head here, because the numbers changed on some of mine as they were amended. Do you have that one?
Okay, give her a second.
Yeah. You know you have too many amendments when you can't find the amendment number.
Describe it again, because I have them all printed out and tabbed with people's names.
So this is one that was suggested by the, I believe by the state's attorneys. And they wanted to see on page 15, line 22, that we struck may employ and we put it in employees. And then on line 23, strikes civilians. Go there and make sure I have that right. Page 15, line 22.
So what does it do? Do you know?
Yeah, let me pull it up. 22. So it works on the definition of independent investigative agencies. Sorry, this was trial boards. Oh, you know what? This is probably from when I was confused about the difference between all of the different three. We had all the trial board, the charging committee, and the investigative agency. And I think I was having trouble until I saw that map. So I think this amendment was when I drew up before I understood what the map was. Does that make sense, Claire, with what I'm saying? Does this amendment look like I didn't understand the difference between charging committees and the investigative agencies?
I do not have that amendment from
I
you.
don't either. Eric can.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, maybe I didn't send it because that was one that I had thrown out, because I think it was when I was still confused. Without the flow chart, it was really hard to dig through what was happening. So, all right. So, and that's fine. So I don't personally have one, but other Republicans may have
Okay, I see Delegate
other
McComas.
amendments. Okay.
McComas.
Okay, Unfortunately, I didn't, I don't have a photographic memory, so I don't know where the trial board, where all that schematic is, and I need to study it. But I have two amendments that were suggested by the sheriffs and chiefs. So, and this is concepts because I don't have it, but if you follow what I say, on page 8, delete the reference in line 28 and 29. And I assume that they're referring to the trial board or charging committee under 3.525 of this title, because that's essentially what's kind of the big stuff in big type.
Okay, can you say that again? I just turned to page.
Okay, turn to page 8, and then on line 28 and 29, the chiefs and sheriffs are suggesting we delete the reference in, and I assume it's the trial board or charging committee under 3.525 of the subtitle. They want that deleted. Okay.
Oh.
Now, if you go
Just-
to
Delegate McComas, just so I can clarify, it looks like what they're suggesting that is deleted is a training program for the trial board or the charging
But
committee.
no, they said delete the reference in line 28 and 29 on page 8. That's what I'm kind of, and
Right, so on page
training
8,
program is line 30.
no, if you look up to line 25, the commission shall develop and administer 1, a training program on matters relating to police procedures for citizens who intend to qualify to participate as a member of the trial board or charging committee.
So you think they want to delete that whole from 26 to 29? Or
I'm just clarifying for the subcommittee.
okay, I mean, I'm just repeating what I had heard. Now, then on line 20, okay, delete on line 4. Okay, let me go to that.
What page?
Page 20, line 4, they want includes in it, they want that deleted, I guess, includes reference to the administrative charging committee. They want that out of there too. But I
Okay,
haven't
so
gotten the
let-
minutes drafted up, so.
So what would you like to do? Would you like to do this conceptually? So the first one would be to remove training for folks who are going to serve on the trial board.
Let's see, I'm not sure that's what they're, I'm not sure that's exactly what they want. They said they deleted the reference in line 28 and 29, and they don't, I don't have a specific, if they're talking, I thought it was just the trial board or charging, not the training program. I guess.
And the second one is to get rid of the charging committee. So are you making?
The second, right, but the second one is called an administrative charging committee. I think it's terminology they don't like.
Okay, so what do you want to do? So we're clear.
Well, and then there's one other, okay, and then they want to strike in their entirety, okay, begin on page 20, beginning at line 28. Okay, down to line 13 on page 23. They want to delete all of that. 23 on.
That would completely remove the administrative charging committee from the process.
Yeah, I think.
That is
okay.
what I'm gathering they want to do. So this is what we're going to do. Are you making a conceptual motion to remove the administrative charging committee?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second for that? We will do a roll call on that. Is somebody seconding that?
No.
So let me just make sure I understand what your amendment does. So if I may.
Yep.
Okay, so they don't like, so can we see that flow chart one more time? Sorry, Matt, I'm just gonna help me understand what piece they're trying to pull out.
Sure, just give me one moment to pull it back up.
Thank you.
For clarification, it appears that they want to do away with the
It would be this box right
trial
here.
board or charging committee.
Right.
Okay,
The
so
chiefs
if we,
and sheriffs, if I may, excuse me, Delegate McComas. They don't want a charging committee. They don't want the trial board. They don't want the administrative and charging committee, just so the committee is clear, that has a citizen on it, a police. I'm echoing somewhere. Can somebody turn off, either mute yourself or turn off the, the YouTube? And they don't want the trial board, which has a retired judge that's going to be proposed, a citizen and a police officer. So the proposal that they are suggesting that you are offering is that the chiefs and sheriffs have sole discretion. I will also, in terms of disciplinary actions, what I will also bring to the attention of this body is that there are approximately, I think, 20 African-American state troopers who are just complaining of a history of discrimination in the where they are in their department. Senator Benson just met with them. So you're suggesting the chiefs and sheriffs have sole discretion and to remove the charging committee. That is what you are putting on the table, and to remove the trial board. That is what you are putting on the table. If you want to move forward with that, we will have this discussion and do a roll call. If not, I will move on and see if anybody else has another amendment.
This is what they want.
No, I'm asking, they don't sit on the subcommittee, Delegate McComas, you do. Are you making this motion?
Yes, because I'm not a police officer and I'm not a professional police officer, and I'm going to defer to the experts. And as far as the state police, anybody can make a complaint. It's what is substantiated in the future. So although I respect the state police tremendously, and I have always been treated with wonderful courtesy and kindness by Black officers that are in the Maryland State Police, I just think that to say because somebody is not happy, okay, does not necessarily mean that they have been disrespected or discriminated against.
Well, I will suggest
That's all
to
I'll
you
say.
that when somebody says that they have been discriminated against and that there's a history, and it's not just there, it's in the Prince George's County Police Department and elsewhere. If somebody is a group of people, a category of individuals are saying that they have been discriminated against in terms of discipline, that's not saying that they are unhappy. But I digress. We are going to, is somebody seconding this motion?
Can we hold this? This is a little bit too big for, this is going to change the whole flow chart, I think, and that's a lot for right now. We just learned the flow chart. Will the maker of the motion withdraw her motion so that we can actually read this?
Yes, I'll withdraw it.
Thank you.
I just want the committee to understand that this is not me saying this. This is what they have, that they who are professional and know a lot more about this than I do. It's like, it's similar to like going in saying a surgeon
Can we remove,
do this.
I'm sorry. Can we
So
remove the
that's-
flow chart, please, so I can see everybody? So I will say this, and I will remind everyone of this. This legislation went through over 30 hours in a work group where we heard from the chiefs and sheriffs. We heard from folks in the community, different advocacy groups, and we heard from the FOP. Okay, so they have given us, all of those folks, multiple times, their thoughts and opinions on what's in this legislation. The work group, based off of all of that, made certain recommendations. Okay, I was on the work group, Delegate McComas was on the work group, Delegate Moon was on the work group, Delegate Anderson was on the work group, Delegate Deborah Davis was on the work group. So we all heard that information. That was turned into legislation that is now being given another go-round look at by this body right here, the subcommittee, with some fresh eyes on it. Delegate Lopez, Delegate Shetty, Delegate Erican, Delegate Sham, and Delegate Griffith, which we need, and we appreciate that. So I don't want us to be disingenuous and say, folks are giving us their opinion and they haven't been heard from. They have. They went to all of you individually, I'm sure. They've met with me individually. And so we know what their opinion is. If you want to make a motion on anything, that's fine. You make a motion in your name, not in anyone else's name, because the members of the General Assembly sit on the subcommittee, no other individual. So I know that other folks have motions. Delegate Griffith, you had some things floating around. Do you want to put anything out today? Are you ready with anything?
Sure, I don't have anything on trial boards. I have several amendments. They're a little bit category. So, I mean, if you're okay
That's
with
fine.
this amendments, I'm happy to.
The only thing I would ask that we don't discuss and hold off on is use of force, because we are going to deal with that on Monday. Anything else? We've talked about basically everything else.
I'll table my stuff. Okay, the first amendment I have is 353120. And this is on page 2012. And what we're trying to do here is add in between 15 and 16, number 7, which authorizes a suspension without pay only in an instance when a police officer has been charged with a felony or crime while on duty. So this goes back to everything we're talking about: due process, fairness, things of that nature, and making sure we're giving the benefit of the doubt where possible on these things. So again, very simple amendment, simply just wanting that the suspension without pay is only when they've been charged with a felony or a crime while on duty.
Is anyone moving this amendment?
Move the amendment.
Is there a second? Griffith, do you want your amendment? Okay, Shampdale, thanks. All right. Is there any discussion? Delegate Anderson, Delegate McComas.
I just think this makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense to have somebody getting paid if they're charged with a felony or a crime while on duty. And it's certainly, I don't know if the Gun Trace Task Force, they've still got paid or not, but anyway, they've caused a lot of problems for everybody. So I think it's a good amendment.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson.
Yeah, I hate to take the side of the police department. Police officers, I mean, I don't hate to, but you can be suspended without pay for merely being charged with a crime. Whatever the crime is, whether it's, drunk driving or assault, and we don't know how long the trial is going to take, but this person will be suspended without pay for that length of time. Is that your intent?
I mean, the intent is to allow the process to play out if they get involved in something outside the line of duty, and have the due process and their rights as, I mean, police officer, not just as an employee, right?
Right.
But if they do something of that level on duty, then they can be in charge. They can be suspended without pay. But if it's off duty, we're just doing an investigation that falls outside of this, then they would be given their due process.
Okay, and suppose they are found not guilty of the crime or the felony, do they get their pay for that period of time if they're out? To address that?
I'm embarrassed to admit I did not contemplate that, but that's certainly something that I think should be considered as well. I mean, I would imagine that if they are found not guilty of this, they should be able to receive their back pay. I think what we're looking for in this, like with this entire piece of legislation, we're just looking for fairness in every direction.
Delegate Anderson, was that all?
Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry.
Delegate, I saw Delegate Lopez wave your hand. Yep. And then Delegate Deborah Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would encourage Delegate Griffith just to table this for the moment while the amendment that I'm working on is getting drafted that goes into more detail and is a little bit more comprehensive. I think you might be satisfied with what my amendment does. And again, it goes a little bit further because it talks about mays and shalls and gives a itemized list of allegations within categories of things that might be felonies. So just for your consideration.
Sure, if we have a better amendment coming down that will accomplish what we're looking to do, I'm happy to table this until we see that.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Deborah Davis, and then Delegate Eric Yan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question was, isn't this covered in the matrix? Wouldn't this be covered in the matrix? What penalties people can get for what? No?
I mean, I haven't seen the matrix, so I don't know yet.
But isn't that the job of the matrix? Isn't that the purpose of the matrix?
I mean, hopefully, but we, like with everything else, we're just trying to, spell out as many things as possible. I mean, it kind of goes back to Moon's amendment earlier, where the intent of the matrix was to, make sure people are being held accountable, but we had to put language in with his amendment to make sure there's a minimum floor for punishment. So this is continuing to codify.
Actually, that was a question for legal. I mean, is that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that what we envision in the matrix?
Delegate Davis, I think what Delegate Griffith is trying to do is to let the chief suspend without pay prior to the completion of an administrative investigation in the event of a crime, which is similar to what Delegate Lopez indicated earlier that she was trying to do. So there may be a way to marry the two concepts here.
And thank you. And lastly, if the police officer commits murder while he's off duty, he shouldn't be suspended.
So I think
That's a felony.
Delegate Lopez's amendment is trying to deal with the felony issue. And so I think there's some synergies between Delegate Griffith and Delegate Lopez that we can try to figure out the language on.
Okay, and I just want to make I want to pinpoint one thing about the hypocrisy of it all. Chiefs and sheriffs don't want normal citizens to get expungements. Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Delegate Davis, Delegate Eric Yan, and then Delegate Anderson.
Okay, thank you. So I'm actually going to touch on some of the questions that Delegate Anderson had mentioned. I think what's happening here actually is that they're trying to restrict the ability to suspend without pay to only these things, not authorize it, because they already have that authority to do that. So this is actually a restriction of authority, it looks like. And then what was it that Delegate Davis was concerned about? Oh, the murder. Murder is already a felony. So this would also be covered. So they could suspend without pay for murdering somebody when they're off duty. You wouldn't have to be on duty. Murdering is not a felony. Murdering is a mistake. I see Delegate Shetty shaking her head.
No, I'm murder is certainly a felony, but
I was like,
it's drafted as only while on duty. So the question is, if the officer commits murder off duty, that's
the second part. That's just the second part. The first part is if they've been charged with a felony or a crime while on duty. So it would be a crime while on duty, or if it's a felony. That's the or instead of and. Yeah.
So what about crimes while you're off duty?
So they would be authorized to suspend, but they wouldn't be authorized to not pay under this amendment.
So what about and I don't mean to be asking you questions about Delegate Griffith's amendment. So
I'm just guessing off what I'm reading here.
Okay, you can feel free to answer too. What about the situation of the gun trace task force? So
they were on duty. So they were both committing felonies and they were on duty. So this is I
don't think they were on duty the entire time, for all the acts that they committed. Were not on duty.
Yeah, I mean, they were just in general criminals, so they were doing it on and off duty, but there was a lot of stuff. I mean, first of all, almost everything they were doing would be considered a felony, I believe. And they were moving mass amounts of drugs. They were planting evidence. Planting evidence was happening when they were on duty. So that would be triggered here. And the other things they were doing were all felonies. So
I think though we would agree that we would not want them to be receiving pay.
Yeah, they would not receive pay under this amendment.
Well,
The way I
Madam
read it.
Chair,
Yes,
Madam
Doug.
Chair, and so I agree with Doug Lopez. Again, I'm happy to see the language, make sure we work through it. Again, what do we want to accomplish the right way? So again, I'm happy to table this until we see Doug Lopez's amendment.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that anyone would, yep, Doug Griffith, you have something else?
Sorry, I got a bunch, and this one's actually might be pretty quick. I feel like there might be a little bit of agreement on this, at least where we're at with our understanding of some issues at this point. This is going to be Amendment 933521. And this is going to be on page 9, line 22. And what we're trying to do right here is just remove the requirement for the implicit bias test. And I think the biggest obstacle here is I don't know if it exists a test yet that can properly quantify this. The testing I'm aware of with this, and we talked about this on the bill with the judges. There's not only the question and answer portion, but it's also timed. And so one of the concerns is, you know, if the question's answered too slowly, it could yield various results, you know, and so I'm just concerned about until we have a better test in place. And I don't think, you know, and Delegate Davis, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't know if there's a test that exists right now. If somebody knows of one, I would be happy to take it. I just don't know of a test right now that has been developed enough. So we, at least for the time being, remove the requirement to the test until there's a better test out there.
Are you moving your amendment?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Me.
Go ahead, Delegate Eric and then Delegate McComas.
Thanks. So there is a test. Harvard, somebody in another testimony on another bill, like you mentioned, did mention a test is created by Harvard. So I went during our committee hearing, I went to the website and I actually took a couple of them. They're really interesting, actually. I did, I think, one on racial biases, and I think I did a couple of maybe one on gender bias or LGBTQ bias or something like that. But it did say on the actual website that this under no circumstances should be used for any type of hiring and firing, that this is really for individuals to learn about their own thought processes about bias and cannot be and has not been proven at all scientifically be appropriate for hiring, firing. So that was the test that we learned about, you know, on a previous panel on another bill, which is definitely an interesting test, but not something that's been approved by even the makers of the test to be used for hiring and firing practices. So we would be operating far outside of the science if we had any kind of sort of hiring and firing practice related to testing somebody's bias. Do we want to know? Sure. Yeah, we don't want biased. I don't want anybody biased making decisions about my family or my children's lives. But you know, we should do it. We should at least offer the opportunity for people to do it if they'd like to do it, to learn about it. But as in terms of, like, you know, mandating it and saying, if you like, what would the threshold be? There's no threshold by the scientists that created the test on where somebody should be, and if they're outside a certain range, then this is the step to fix that. That doesn't exist yet. So I would be very uncomfortable mandating testing. Obviously mandating training is totally fine, but testing is, yeah, that's a huge concern for me as well.
Delegate McComas.
Sorry, Madam Chair. I would just say that it almost reminds me of a Rorschach, or going back to Jung and Freud. It's kind of like what the person observing or the eyes of the beholder. I think you have to be very careful because of the implicit bias of the person that's developing the testing, as well as the reliability of the test. I think it's something that's in the eyes of the beholder. So I think we need to be very, very careful. And so I would support Delegate Griffith's amendment because we're not there yet. And I also think that well, anyway, that's my thought. Thank you.
Okay, any other? Delegate Griffith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just I want to emphasize very strongly, this is not addressing the training. We're not, this doesn't affect any of that. It's just until the science catches up with what we're working through socially right now. We can always go down the road once we have a reliable test and revisit this. This is just to put a hold on until the science catches up. That's all this is.
Any other discussion? Delegate Deborah Davis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. In case any of my colleagues are thinking about voting for this amendment, this was a big deal in the task force. I just want to say that.
Okay, I agree. We'll do a quick roll call on this.
Can I ask one more question? Because can we get your opinion? Because was there any science in the committee, in your work group that said that this was even possible?
There was a lot of discussion about it. There was no specific test presented. We were given name of someone who, a doctor, I believe, who might know of where to find that information, which I can certainly circulate. But my personal opinion is just because those of us sitting right here don't know of a test. I mean, this is a national, this isn't just the task force. This is a national movement. And I personally am confident that there is a test out there that folks will be able to take, because there are going to be police departments across this country who are going to want to use this tool. And this was, quite frankly, one of the number one things Speaker wanted in this bill. So.
The testing part or the training part?
Both, implicit bias testing and training.
And did she intend for the testing to be like a restrict? So if the test doesn't exist, I'm just thinking, if the test doesn't exist and the Mail and Training Commission can't create one, they just can't hire any new officers because they'd be in violation of the law. It's not really logical.
I don't know that the test does not exist. I don't know
according to Harvard, it does not exist.
I don't know that it does not exist. I don't know if there's no test anywhere in this country. I don't know that to be certain. And I don't think sitting right here knows that for certain.
So if we assume, let's pretend that we don't, that the Training Commission can't find a test. What is the implication in the way the law is written? Maybe Matt can answer this. What happens if they can't find a test? Can we just not hire new officers?
It's a tool. It's a tool. It doesn't say if you don't take the test, then you can't get hired. It's a tool used for departments to be able to root out biased officers at the onset and not hire them and have them in their department. Because once they're in the department, well, then they have lots of protections, which is why we had the whole work group. So it's a tool to be used. It's not an absolute bar, just like the marijuana provision. So with that, we are taking a roll call. There was a motion and it was moved and properly seconded. Or however you say that. Delegate Atterbury, yes. Delegate Anderson.
Wait, are you voting on the amendment?
I'm sorry, Delegate Atterbury, no. Thank you, Delegate Deborah Davis. Delegate Atterbury, no. Delegate Anderson.
Yeah, I was confused for a second. I was following you.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson.
No, I do believe there is implicit, the IAT does exist. It does exist at Harvard. And I think our commission can come up with one for the state of Maryland. So I will vote no on this amendment.
Thank you, Delegate Anderson. Delegate Arakan?
The Harvard study says it can't be used like this. So I vote no. I mean, I vote yes for the amendment.
Delegate Bartlett had to step away from an appointment, so she's excused. Delegate Deborah Davis?
No.
Delegate Griffith?
Yes.
Delegate Lopez?
No.
Delegate McComas,
Yes.
Delegate Moon,
No.
excuse me, Delegate Shetty,
No.
and Delegate Sham.
Yes, sorry.
And it fails 6-4. Okay, with that, we do have 20 minutes before I'll let everybody get a nice break before we have to go back to the floor at 4. We'll have a lot to do on Monday at 9 a.m. Again, we'll be voting, so it will just be subcommittee members on the Zoom. Thank you, everyone. I know everyone has put a lot of time and effort and energy into this with all the amendments and the discussion, so I do appreciate it. We do have, please bring forth the amendments that you absolutely want to go forward with on Monday. We'll start with related to use of force, and then we will circle back with all amendments that you absolutely want to present, and we have 2 hours. Okay, and Monday will be our last meeting. Okay, folks? So with that, see you on the floor or in the annex. Thank you, everybody.